SEO is always changing, but there are core principles that can make or break your website. Today, we're going to be looking at specifically on-page SEO, and we are sitting down with one of the best in the business. If you haven't heard of Kyle Roof, he is actually joining us all the way from Thailand. So I think, Kyle, you are probably our first guest from that far away. I don't think we've had anyone on that side of the world. So can you just tell our audience just a few things about you, kind of what you do in SEO and where they can find you?
Well, it's an honor to be the first person from Thailand, although I'm not necessarily Thai. But I have lived here for 5 years. I live in a small town called Chiang Mai, which is all the way up in the north. It's probably not what you think of when you think of Thailand. Most people think of Bangkok as a city that never sleeps, or they think of the beaches. And we're up in a little valley up in the mountains. And today, actually, we had a tropical storm come through. It's a rainy place as it is, but it was crazy flooding today, which was nuts. But yeah, as you said, I do on-page SEO is my focus and SEO testing, and I've been in SEO for since about 2013 full time. And yeah, I think I have a patent in SEO on an SEO technique, and I also I think I have a Google rule that was written for me as well.
Which one was that? I'm not sure I heard about
that. Yeah, it was after I in a little competition ranked this site on page 1, and I did the whole site in lorem ipsum.
Yep.
And and then right after that site was exposed, or at least not exposed, but like the competition was over and people could see the site, Google wrote this rule that said you can't have web pages that don't make sense to the reader but contain search terms.
Was that before or after they blacklisted you?
Then 2 months later, then they took down the site based off that rule.
Nice. I feel like it's a badge of honor, though. Like doing something so crazy that Google just says, no, like we have to.
It was completely validating, and it showed that I think it showed that I knew what I was talking about.
Yeah, and if you guys haven't heard the story, honestly, you can Google it. It was that rhinoplasty business site in Plano, Texas, right? And I won't pepper you about it because I realize you're probably so bored about talking about it because it was several years ago, and I feel like all your interviews, everyone always wants to know. But I'll save you the trouble from sharing that story because you have so many other videos that share it. It's a great story if our listeners haven't heard about it. But I really want to talk about like more on the testing side, some of the stuff that you were testing. That's, I think, one of the things that has really drawn me to like content that you've come out with. You document it really well, and you also dumb things down. So for people that are here that are like, oh man, SEO is complicated, it's hard. We're going to hopefully try and dumb some of that down for you today. As well, I want to mention that if you want Kyle to actually audit your site, I had him pull up one of his tools that normally, you have to pay money to get access to. And I asked if you'd mind auditing a few websites from some of the people that join live. So if you have a website that you want Kyle to look at, tell you how to improve it, feel free to put that in the chat, and then we will try and grab a few of those so that later we can actually take a look at them. To start
one note on that. I'm sorry. I would need a URL and a keyword that they're going after.
Keyword. Good point. Okay, so URL and a keyword. Put that in the chat, and then we'll pin a couple of those and look at them. All right, so I want to start by talking about this silo concept in SEO. So for people that are not familiar with that term, can you tell us what a silo is and how it actually boosts your rankings on Google?
Sure. So a silo essentially is just a form of organization. I think most people think of the most basic type of silo as just a parent-child relationship where you have a category and then pages within that category. So if you had .com/colors and then you have /red/blue/green, that's a physical silo, and it's a parent-child relationship. And physical silos don't help you rank. That's not gonna do anything for you, but they are very valuable because they help the people coming to your site find stuff. So it's a good idea to do. The next type of silo is known as a virtual silo. And a virtual silo is going to make connections between pages through links, through internal links within the site. And in particular, I like the fashion of links that are within the body. And a lot of the SEO that I do is built on this principle of creating these silos. So I will have a target page and whatever language you like to use, but a page I want to have show up in Google that's going to bring money. That's the page that I want to appear. And then I'm going to create other pages on the site that support that page. And I'm going to very specifically integrate silo. And that is a huge history. So if you take one thing away, go do this. I do like to think of things though as a reverse silo. And so a lot of people, when they think of their website, they think of like their home page and then their category pages and then maybe their supporting pages and things go down. But those supporting pages actually do so much of the heavy lifting on your site. I really like to think of kind of the structure the other way, building it from the ground up, if you will, to get those supporting pages out there, because they will raise the overall strength of the site. They'll pass that strength to each other and then pass it up to your top level pages. And in doing so, you become less reliant on external signals such as backlinks. And that'll make your sites less volatile, and that'll make you less susceptible to Google updates.
So just to kind of paint a picture here, I have a question. So let's say that you're a lawn care business and your money page is your lawn care page. It talks about how you do lawn care in Toronto. And so that's kind of the page that drives all your leads. And then you have this blog article on your site that's talking about how to fix patches of like dead grass on your lawn.
Yeah. Yep.
Let's say that's like the supporting page. So you would want to obviously have an internal link from that supporting page to your money page. Now, does it matter if that money page also links back to the blog, or can you explain that to people?
So just having that's a great question actually, because I'm not sure if 2 pages make a silo. It's kind of like, what is a pile of sand, like how many grains before you actually have a pile. But I would say that in an example, so you've got that one on how to fix grass, and you've got another one on weed whacking techniques, right? And you link those guys together. They both link to that target page. And then what I try to do is get one link into the target page into the silo. So to kind of complete the circle. But I don't all link. It's more of a daisy chain.
Got it. Okay. And so, but normally it's the supporting page is always linking to the money page, not necessarily vice versa.
Correct. All supporting pages will link to that target page, and then A links to B, B links to A and C, if you will.
There needs to be like a visual for that. I'm sure you probably put out one. Is there a visual somewhere?
Yeah, if you search reverse silo, there's plenty of images that people can see on that.
Awesome.
I would also note though, when I build these pages, I only build them to support one target page. So I don't want to link out to other category pages or other service pages or other location pages. I build a specific set of pages to support one target page. And I get this complaint all the time from people who are like, well, I've got this one piece of content and I want to link to several. Well, do that. You should do that. You should have pages that are traffic magnets and referral magnets and link magnets, and they should link out to several things. But when I build these types of pages, their only goal in life is to support that target page, to link to each other and to the target page.
Got it. Here's another debate we get a lot in SEO, and I would love your take on it. URL structure. Have you done testing or found anything in regards to flat URL structure versus having folders? Is there one that impacts your rankings more than others, or does there even make a difference?
There's this myth that shorter URLs rank better. And it's correct, but for the wrong reason. It's not that the URL itself is shorter, it's that your target page is closer to the .com. The more folders you put in between your target page, the more Google has to work, the longer things are going to take to index, and that's likely to impact your overall ranking. Now, you do need folders because most humans are not schizophrenic, and they do need some form of organization in their lives. But I would try to limit my folders, as the more folders you put in between, the harder it is to rank. Now, the other thing too is I hate to see like /blog or /page or /product. When I do folders, I really want to see something that is actually a keyword that somebody would be ranking for, and an actual page that exists on the site.
Yeah, that's a solid tip. Okay, that answered that question. In regards to content ideas, this is one that we get quite a bit as well, because I think especially with AI and the amount of AI generated pages, it's actually hard to find topics to write about that haven't been written about, 600 times. So what is your current strategy for finding new content ideas when you get a new business that you're working with?
Sure, there are a few ways to do this, but I've got a tip. I got a tip for the class.
All right.
Um, in every niche, there are always um, online magazines, and things that are discussed, and some of them and the better ones are paid perhaps for a few bucks. If you subscribe to all of like a whole bunch of them within a particular niche, they all have stories about something that's coming out in 6 months. They all have stories about stuff that's coming out next year. There's nothing says that you can't write that blog post now about that thing that's dropping in 6 months. And then at that point, now you've got this content that when that happens, you're way ahead of all of your competitors because you've got the thing that has been predicted or the thing that was around the corner or in the future. And so signing up for a good chunk of those types of online magazines, online forums, online resources where they're going to tell you what's going on in the industry is invaluable. And you can create months to years worth of information on stuff that hasn't even happened yet and will happen. And then you're the first one ranking because you built a page several months ago.
Oh man, I love that. We have seen this with our lawyers. There's these like huge class action lawsuits that happen, and if you're like the first one that gives details about it and talks about it, then it's much easier to rank. Whereas like if you wait for it to actually be around for several months and then you're the 200th person to write about it, it's way harder. So I love that idea. I'm going to get a QR code just put up on the screen real quick for people that want their site to be audited. Go ahead and fill in this form. We kind of forgot YouTube comments strip out URLs like crazy, so it's actually hard for people to leave it there. So go ahead and fill that form in, and then I will just pull a couple of those up, and we'll have Kyle go through and audit a few of them. Right. I really wanted to pick your brain about how you feel about what we call entity optimization. Now, I'm going to need you to explain what this means, but there's like lots of different terms that talk about these concepts that are kind of similar. So some people would call it entity optimization. Some people would call it, I've heard LSI keywords. And I think they're all sort of talking about the same thing. They're talking about essentially, if you're a lawn care business, sticking with that example, you want to have other words on your site like weeds that Google associates with lawn care so that Google realizes that you're a lawn care business and ranks you better for lawn care. So I would love to hear, first of all, do you think that actually, impacts ranking? And second of all, like, how do you get this list of keywords? How in the world do you even know what to put on there?
Sure. So LSI or contextual terms give context and meaning to content. And within that, once there is that context and meaning, then you have an entity, because an entity is a thing. An entity is more of a concept, but you need the contextual terms in order to have the concept. And so, if you're writing about a kitchen, you could be writing about sink installation and tile, and paint, and now you're talking about kitchen remodeling. You could be talking about just an actual kitchen, like a refrigerator, sink, stove, things that are in a kitchen. Or you could be talking about how families gather at important events, and special holidays, and the kitchen is the heart of the home. In all three of those situations, you're talking about a kitchen, but you're talking about something completely different in all of them. And that's from the contextual terms. And then from those contextual terms, you gain entities, you gain the concepts, the things that you are talking about. Google has an NLP API. So that's natural language processing. Natural language processing shows you what entities are, and you can actually run your content through to see what Google thinks your content is about. Now, surprise of the century, that's not going to help you rank. Like, there's no chance that Google is just going to toss out a tool and like, oh, I just had to put it in here, and now I have these terms ranked, because you can't take the list of those words and just put them on the page, rerun it, and Google will understand it, because you actually have to have those contextual terms there in order for Google to understand the concept. So if you don't, within my tool, you can run Google's NLP API, and people it says I don't have that word on there, but I do. And it's like, no, not having the word isn't the thing. It's having those contextual terms. So if you like the term LSI, if you like contextual terms, if you like something else, it's fine. Those are all the same thing, but it's getting those on the page. Now, I can tell you that those are a ranking factor. because Google needs to see contextual terms, variations of a keyword, a certain amount of time and in certain places, and because that is part of the algorithm that Google has constructed. So those are extremely important. One, for indexing, just so Google can index the content in the first place, but two, definitely for rank, as you need to have a certain number of important terms on your page.
So is there such thing as kind of overdoing it? Like, for example, I know people have looked at sites and said, oh, you want to rank for criminal lawyer. You have the word criminal lawyer on your page 50 times. Is there a point where you can actually overdo it?
Yeah, of course. But you probably don't need that target keyword as many times on the page as you think. The top 4 places are in the URL, in the title tag, in the H1, and one time in the body, and that's probably all you need. But from there, you do need all those contextual terms talking about what that particular thing is. And if you lack those, then the page will not rank well. And this is the problem with LLMs, by the way. When people are like, oh, I posted AI content and my site tanked, and they're like, Google hates AI. Not at all. We've run a bunch of tests on this, and we have actually a write-up on our site about it, where LLMs do not put contextual terms into the content properly. And so let's say you launched 400 pages of AI, Google looks at it as like, I don't understand what this is. And so Google devalues that content, and then by extension devalues the site. And so that really demonstrates the importance of having these contextual terms. And where I think people go off the rails on AI is because a large language model, believe it or not, does not write the words that Google needs to see. It does not write those contextual terms that Google needs to understand this content. And so I think that demonstrates, one, the importance of having those terms, and two, make sure you are actually checking your important terms and not just saying like, oh, this content looks pretty, because there's a good chance that Google won't understand it when it comes out of AI.
Well, the great news, Kyle, we got lots of submissions for websites. So I'm going to put a couple in the chat. Can you see the chat there? We have a plumber. I think that'll be interesting.
Right.
So I'll put the website and the keyword in there.
Okay.
And then we have like a wedding planner, an auto dealer, a roofer. Anything strike your fancy like that you want me to put in there?
Let me just see if I can even multitask while we're doing this. Hang on one sec.
Yeah, no worries. While Kyle is putting that up, I'll just kind of echo what he said. We have actually done a lot of testing on this concept he's talking about, and certainly can be a ranking increaser when it's done right. So what I'm hoping to do is have him actually show how his tool will give you like those, related keywords and things that you need to actually add to your content. So we'll take a look at that. And
can I ask a question about the Patriot Plumber there real quick? Are they, one, are they trying to rank their homepage for that term? Would be question one. And question two, is there a specific region that they're going after? Or are they just targeting the United States generally?
I mean, I would assume they're targeting so if you scroll down to their footer, my assumption would be their service areas down there is what they're targeting.
Okay.
But it looks like their actual address is in Copperas Cove, Texas. So they're probably, knowing how Google's local algorithm works, they're probably only going to rank their Google business profile in that town. And then their site, I assume they want to rank in all those I'm guessing they have service area pages for that. Let me see if they responded and said if it was their homepage. Their homepage is not targeting, looks like it's just targeting plumber as of right now. Let's assume it's their homepage.
Water heater plumber. Water heater. Is this good TV? Do people like this?
Water heater. We get a lot of plumbers that are on here. So, and it's actually a pretty tough industry to make progress in, because so much of the search volume is just like one keyword, which is like plumber or plumber near me.
Yeah, for sure. Those are frustrating situations where you've got, when you're in that local space, because SEO can get competitive in a hurry when you really like have, maybe 10 services, right? And then it's location pages after that. That's a tough spot to be.
Yeah, I'd say there's like quite a good deal of these guys are in that position. We run into that with dentists too. Like so much of the volume and traffic for leads, if you're a dentist, is literally on the word dentist, dentist near me, dentist city. And then there's other like keywords you can target that are much, much, much lower volume. But it's like, I love the lawyers who have like, hundreds, if not thousands of different keywords that actually drive leads. Because there's so many different ways that people can search for a lawyer. But Plumber is definitely
exactly.
So I thought this one would actually be great to look at because it is a challenging industry.
Sounds good.
All right, you talked about AI, so I'm going to throw another AI question at you here. So we have a lot of SEOs that are talking about this like query fan out process that Google is doing. So I'll need you maybe to explain that to people because it's kind of a SEO-ish term. With that in mind, do you think that like traditional keyword research is going to change dramatically, like with the way that Google is doing all of this with their AI?
I mean, people aren't searching with vibes, they're still searching with search terms. So as long as they're typing something in, a form of keyword research is going to be necessary. If you've seen me speak before, something that I have talked about is the avalanche theory. It's from Chris Carter, who's the founder of Serpwu. And the idea there is that there's a certain level that Google trusts your site. Your site has a certain level of authority. And so if you launch a page about a term, and it's in that same tier, you rank immediately. You're on page 1, page 2, and you feel like an SEO god. You do a very similar phrase, and you can't crack the top 100, even though they look very, very similar, and you can't figure out the difference between them. And what this theory talks about is the difference is one was in your tier, so Google immediately trusted you, and the other one wasn't. And if something's not in your tier, then that means you need extra boost. That means you need heavier on-page SEO, you need more backlinks, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, in order to go up. And so a big part of the research that I do, the keyword research that I do, is first to identify how strong my site is. And you should read about avalanche theory. That's on Builder Society, and the link you can search for it and find it. And that's a very foundational concept, and then you can build off of that because it's not a complete system. But the first thing I want to do is I want to figure out how strong a site is, and I'm going to match up keywords that I think are in that tier, and I'm going to use those for my silos. And that's what I use for my supporting pages. And this also then helps you get into those concepts of topical mapping and topical clustering. This gets you into keyword gap, content gap, competitor gap. All of that's kind of then now in this concept because now we're looking for terms within this tier, and that's how we're filtering. As those gain keywords, impressions, and clicks, they gain strength. They pass it to each other because we've properly done it within our reverse silo, and you just kind of create this engine of good. But the other benefit that we're getting out of this is it is helping us show up in a lot of the AI overviews. So I think within that clustering concept, I think that is helping the search engines a bit understand what your site is about. And they do, and because they're passing that love between each other, I think they are then finding themselves within those AI overview areas. So for that reason, and I can also say once the AI overview stuff happened, all of this research that we normally do which worked fine, is really taking off. So for at least the next little bit, I don't see that type of thing changing. Now I don't know if that is traditional keyword research. I don't think it's exactly what everybody is doing and how they filter and how they think about things, but it's what we've been doing for years and years, and we're not planning on changing that anytime soon.
Yeah. So how do you find out if something? So I'll give you an example. Actually, I got multiple examples here. So we had a garage door repair business that started to get into flooring. So they typically would just do garage door repair, but they started doing epoxy flooring. So they'll come and like redo your garage floor and make it all pretty and like think of the garage man caves and all that stuff. And it was really tough for them to rank for any type of flooring keywords because I guess it wasn't in their niche, right? It wasn't in their level of expertise, and like anything they would publish on garage door repair was just amazing. Like they would rank, they would do really well, but not at all for flooring. So when you're in that situation, what would you do?
So it's also possible that just their site isn't strong enough for those flooring terms. And the deceptive thing is that sometimes terms look exactly the same. Like, oh, so we've got, the garage door repair, the floor thing's got to be the same thing. And sometimes it just isn't. And so it requires more work in order to rank for those pages. It can be done. But what I would do is I would start building out a lot more content in my site in order to raise the overall strength of the site to see if I can't get some movement on those pages. It's probably how I'd approach it.
I heard on a podcast, and I wish I could remember who said it. Somebody was talking about how the best way to do this is to actually launch a whole bunch of pages all at once. So like if you're getting into flooring and your site doesn't really talk about flooring, you launch like 40 pages related to flooring topics all at once, and that'll help you rank faster. Do you think that's true?
Uh, so I don't know. It's probably what's going to be down to on that is how much is Google crawling your site. It's probably more of a crawl budget issue than just about anything, because if Google's only crawling a handful of pages on your site, it doesn't matter if you launch 40, because they're not going to be crawled. But if Google is crawling your site a healthy amount, then I wouldn't see any problem with doing that.
Okay. And then kind of as a follow-up question, is there a point where you recommend getting a different site if it's not the same topic? So I'll give you another case that I ran into recently. We had an immigration lawyer who decided they were going to start doing personal injury law. And personal injury law is like super, super competitive. I mean, most of the injury lawyers in big cities are spending, $10,000 a month plus on SEO. This is actually a good opportunity for me to mention. If you want to hear about strategies, if you're in that camp, I'm actually going to be having Jason Hennessy on next month, who deals with lawyers exclusively, and he deals with very high budget lawyers. So it'll be interesting to be able to ask him what he's doing for some of these crazy retainers. Like he posted on Facebook the other day that he has a client that spends $35,000 a month who's a lawyer in the US, which is very high. A lot of money to spend on SEO for a local SEO kind of business. So I'm going to be asking him some of those questions.
I don't think he takes clients under $5,000.
Yeah, which I mean, great position to be in. So cheers to Jason. We'll hear about how he got there. But going back to that lawyer example, so if you have a lawyer that's really got a strong site to do with immigration law, and then they're starting a brand new practice, it's not a new business, but they're going to be starting to practice personal injury law. Do you think it's smarter to start a separate website, or can you actually get a really established site to encompass two different topics instead of just the one?
I mean, if it's still within the legal niche, you can definitely do it on one site because it falls under that umbrella. I just wouldn't do used cars. Even you're a car accident lawyer, I wouldn't try to sell used cars at the same time. I think that's too far afield. But if it's all under that same kind of umbrella, I think you'd be okay.
Yeah, I think we actually advised them on a new site because their domain name was related to immigration. My fear was moving to a generic domain. They had a keyword-rich domain, and I was like, if you move to a generic domain so that you now can cover multiple types, you're going to probably take a hit on immigration terms, right? So
yeah, I'm with you on that.
Yeah. Do you find that the domain name, the keywords in the URL, that's still a huge ranking factor? Has it gone up or down over the years based on what you've seen?
It totally works. EMDs totally work, and anybody that says otherwise, I'd like to see their data.
Agreed. No disagreement there. Actually, I think Jason's case study that he was talking about, he was also talking about this other one that he just got a $300,000 check from because he's actually a business owner along with this law firm, and it's a birth injury law firm. But yeah, the website is birthinjurylawyer.com or something like that. And I was like, of course you would pick that domain. We all know that works just way too well.
What a miserable niche to be in, though.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I know. I mean, it pays well, so a lot of.
I'm sure it does. I'm sure a lot of people don't want to do it either.
No. Are you ready, Kyle, to queue up that?
Yeah, I've got. Yeah, we can do it. I guess I need to share my screen.
Yes. When you are ready, there should be a little screen share button there, and then if we have time, I'll give you another one to do.
All right. So kind of going in blind on this, but I ran the report, and now we're opening the report. There's this thing on best practices, and I make people check a box. You can, after you check it once, you can say you don't. But I would say we would reduce our support tickets by 70% if people would read that.
Nobody reads.
So this is pretty decent example, to be honest with you. So the term they gave was water heater plumber. Their website's water heater. I might have pulled the wrong page, but just it's a fine example anyway. But what we're looking at here is at the target page. So something that POP does is it's going to try to identify the page within the first 3 pages of Google that's doing the best on-page SEO. So and then from there, we're going to queue off of that. And we're trying to find the other pages that appear to be getting the most value out of their on-page SEO. And so something like Amazon, for example, if they were showing up, we're going to discount that, or we're probably not going to use it because it's unlikely that it is getting any value from its on-page SEO or any strength from its on-page SEO. And so that's something that we do in here. And so of the sites that we're looking at, the target word count is about 1,650. And you can see this word count is extremely low. And that's then resulting within a score, and the goal on the score is to get to 100. So what's great about this situation is if this page isn't ranking well, and we got the term right, there's some great things that can be done. We then break it up into different sections. So your search engine title, that's your title tag. Page title will be your H1. Then we're in your H2s and H3s, and then the main content. Now, what we're looking at these are the important terms. We talked about, using your target keyword. We talked about using variations of your keyword, and then we talked about using contextual terms, or LSI, if you like that. And that's what this is going to give you. It's going to give you the terms that we're looking to get into each of these sections and how many times you should do it. And so you can see for example, they've got it in their page title, which is great. And they're kind of within that zone, but they don't have it within their title tag. And that's the most important place to put a keyword. And so that right there would probably bring a jump in SEO. But something I really want to highlight, and this is where I usually see a lot of problems, especially when word count is lower. So these are all the terms we need to get in here. We've got Google's NLP API. We've got other NLP. And within that 1,500 words, we need between 112 and 187 terms. And I can tell you from experience, the mark you want to shoot for is the midpoint of that. Just limping into the range isn't that great. And there's diminishing returns going all the way up. The midpoint is where you're at. And you can see here, they're at 81 terms. So when we were talking about Google understanding what this page is about, they are significantly deficient on the amount of terms they need to make a real impact on their rank. And so this is like an encouraging thing in these situations where you say like, hey, look, this is great. Like we have room here because we can now add content to this page. We can make it more contextually term rich, more important term rich, and on page will have a real impact. The other thing I want to point out, when you're talking about stuffing, pop is not going to lead you to stuffing because water heater plumber was the target term and the suggested range is 0. That means using it within the body, even though it's one of the top places, the variations on that term will probably do the heavy lifting in this situation. Now, it's not going to kill you if you use your target term one time in the body, but I just wanted to highlight that pop is going to be like, just use it 20 times and you're good to go. So this is what we call our pro view. And then if you want to get in the weeds, we let you get in the weeds. And that's where we have page structure suggestions. We've got Google's NLP API. We do EAT signals, and we have 2 types of EAT, where we have basic EAT, where we're checking for things that you can see on the page, terms of service, privacy policy, that kind of stuff. And then we call next gen EAT, where we actually evaluate how much expertise, experience, authority, and trust can actually be seen on the page, and which is a really fun feature that we have. We have a schema page where we can then create the schema for you. You can see the schema that your competitors are using, and then we can generate that schema. Then like what you're talking about with LSI, I personally like that term. I'm an old school SEO. I like the term LSI. It doesn't bother me. The people that really get upset about it, it's kind of like, it's not the most accurate word of all time, but it's what the industry understands. So get over yourself, I think. But we're looking at them. What's that?
So I'm going to have to clip that and share that. Get over yourself.
Perfect. And then if you really want to go for it, so some people know like what's going on in their niche, and they know that for their niche, they need to focus on very specific competitors, and we let you do that. I know the competitors that I want to focus on, and you can choose them, and then maybe you need an aggressive strategy. So then Pop is going to shift things for you in the recommendations to skew upwards in your situation. Or maybe you're in a situation where you have to take a conservative approach, and you know this because you're a talented SEO and you know what your situation is. Then we allow you to do that. And you can then custom all of your analysis to what you need, how you need it, and to get the output that you need in those recommendations. And then you can start to do comparisons between things. Like you could look at an aggressive approach versus a conservative approach, and then you can make your choices for you. The first thing I showed, which we call the content brief, we do all of that for you. It's kind of like having a professional SEO looking over your shoulder, but if you really want to get into it, you can really get into it. And you can set up Pop so that it can give you the output that you need because you know your specific situation. But otherwise, use the content brief. It's very successful, and people will do very well with it.
I have a few questions. So there is one term that showed up, for example, install. So he doesn't have the word install on his page, and that's one that we suggest putting on there. You had mentioned that like it's all about how you put it in and like how you phrase it and that type of thing. So is it as simple as like taking the list of words and then saying, hey, ChatGPT, like put all these words into this content? Or how would you suggest they go about making sure that they add all the words to their content?
Yeah, you can certainly do that. I know people that do that, like, within their content creation, they are comfortable using, ChatGPT or whatever content creation tool they like, and then they'll feed it in. That's what we do essentially with our content writer, with the writer that we have, is that it will use those terms the appropriate amount of times. But yeah, I would strongly suggest figuring out an SOP that's got that in there, so that the content that you produce is content that Google will understand.
All right, and the EEAT signals thing, I don't know. I have mixed feelings about EEAT and like how it influences ranking and stuff. So you mentioned like privacy policy pages, for example. Have you, in your testing, like done any tests around like what's the point in adding those? Like, what does that do for a business? Does it actually improve the ranking? Does it get them more traffic? Like,
No.
what does it do?
No.
Okay.
No.
Good.
No.
Okay.
None of that. If there's an EAT check, if Google does do an EAT check, what it is it's looking to tick enough boxes to see if you should be in the index in the first place.
Okay.
And if you don't tick enough boxes, then you can be filtered or you can be hampered in your ranking. So it's not any, you add all the EAT you like, your ranking is going to go nowhere. It's not moving up whatsoever, but it's the kind of thing that can keep you from dropping.
Got it. I would say in our sector of the world, we don't run into that as much. Like I could see that being the case for affiliate sites with local SEO, because they're like established brick and mortar businesses with usually Google business profiles. I can't say I've ever seen a site get like de-indexed for not having enough authority.
No, that's exactly right. Real sites don't have EAT issues. Real businesses don't have EAT issues, But the one thing I do like that we built on the next gen side of things is that it does actually help create quality writing, which is kind of fun, which is a fun way about it, like kind of having that content evaluated by an AI to say, like, you know what, this really isn't all that trustworthy. and if a bot isn't trusting you at that point, maybe you need to work on your writing skills a little bit.
We have a few questions that I want to take here. So Tim wants to know, is this a viable setup for LLM search? So like using the same type of things that you're talking about, is that going to help you rank better on ChatGPT as well as Google?
So we haven't really seen any movement. We're constantly testing this right now, actually, but we haven't seen any movement where you write a page on your site and you get inserted into the LLM. That just doesn't seem to be a thing. But there does seem to be the concept of when you are posted in several listicles on several strong sites, then your information gets into the LLMs. And traditionally, this is just guest posting, which is comedy to me, where people are like, everything's changed. I'm like, not really. Doing strong on-page SEO gets you into the AI overviews, and doing guest posts gets you inserted into the LLMs. And so it's all basically exactly the same. We just have new KPIs. It's kind of the biggest change that I see.
So, okay, I have a follow-up question on that. I was going to say the only thing we have seen here that actually helps with getting in LLMs is press releases. As stupid as that sounds.
No, that's exactly right.
It's crazy, but like we send out press releases for businesses that we work with, and I haven't even published any of this stuff yet, but it's coming on our YouTube channel later this year. But we published like press releases for businesses, that they've won awards and things like that. And now they're ranking for like best queries on ChatGPT when they weren't before. And it's like, really? Like that's going to be your source? Like, all right.
Yeah, no, that's 100% right. And that's exactly what I've seen as well. And so you can use guest posts, you can use press releases. And the other thing that I would look at is, if you did a search for the term that you're most interested in and you see a third-party site on there, and maybe you can grab your profile on that site. I'd get my information there. Or if you find a page that's ranking, contacting them and trying to get inserted onto that page is something else you can do.
So guest posting's interesting. That is a strategy that I feel has been really the last couple of years. Like since the helpful content update, Google just totally trashed so many guest posting sites that a lot of SEOs use. Like you put their domains into Ahrefs and it's like this giant cliff. So I was curious, like, where do you find good sites to guest post on? Because most of them are trash.
So the thing is, whenever you're not allowed to buy links, right? That's actually incorrect. There are two types of links you're allowed to buy. One is a link that helps Google understand what your site is about or what your business is about, and that's a citation. You're allowed to buy those, and that's a link that goes back to your site. The other is native advertisement. You're allowed to advertise your site, and you're allowed to buy a link that will be within that advertisement. And so long as you're identifying that content as sponsored, and that this is a sponsored post, then it's gone through an editorial review, then you're allowed to buy that link as well. And so real sites that do that will, you can find them. They're just a lot more expensive than what most people want to pay.
Is there any place that you would suggest going? Like, I don't know, like a marketplace or anything like that? Or I don't know if it's a service you guys offer, but just to kind of weed through all the crap?
I do feel I have a lot of friends that are in this industry, and I would hate to leave somebody out. But I do feel that a lot of them are building off of the same list. It's more of the strategy approach of which are the right ones to go with. And so I think most people have access to the same inventory. It's a bit of a price game and a bit of a strategy game. So what I would look for in particular is actually a link builder that's going to do research. Fun fact, most link builders, I don't think, do any research. They basically find a niche and then just kind of want to throw everything at it. And so I would go, maybe the thing I would look for is a link builder that does research.
Okay. There's a few more questions. I think we answered this one. Do EMDs still work in SEO and local SEO?
Yep.
Steve wants to know, how deep a folder structure would you go before you'd say it actually hurts your performance?
I really wouldn't go more than 2 if I could avoid it, because if you think about it, so that's a category and a subcategory, and then your page. Do you really need another subcategory? Like, what are you guys talking about?
And so if you can avoid the /blog in your URL and just have your blogs, like we don't have a /blog on our site. Our URLs are just, that's it. Like, is that's ideal?
Totally fine. Yeah, I like that, because the menu bar that you have is a fiction. It doesn't actually have to mimic your URL structure. You can just have a menu, and the menu can say blog, and you click on that, then you go over to the area where everything's posted next to the .com.
Exactly. Okay. So if you were a tree service business, like in this case, would it be better to have like everything nested under tree service, or I guess just like tree service and then having more of those pages?
So this is the thing where you can have the appearance of however you want to have it. So you could have the appearance of tree service, and then everything is listed under it. And that's how your menu looks, because that is really easy for humans as they get in. And then your URLs can be whatever you think is most advantageous for SEO.
Connor wants to know if you have an example of any contextual terms that Google likes to see that AI doesn't include.
Yeah, so actually I do. If it's on my site, if you search for best LLMs for SEO, I think we're #1 for that, and you can read the whole article about it. And we talk about how badly. So we did this in March. We're redoing it right now as well. But you'll see how badly all of the terms. So we just asked a simple prompt. So without giving it any extra, we said we want 1,000-word article on what to see in Rome. So a topic that's going to have plenty of information for them to pull from. And then we asked, we'd like an SEO optimized article that's 1,000 words long on what to see in Rome. And what was amazing is that one did worse. Yeah, so like they every LLM formatted the content a little bit better. So it was interesting that their pop score actually went up a little bit, but it was fool's gold, because they'd actually reduced word count and reduced important term count. They just got their H1s or H2s and H3s a a little better, which is pretty interesting. So, but you can see that they, like in that example we were looking at, that that the person was like at an 81 when they needed to be like 130, right? These were off by a factor of 4x. Like wow. The content they were putting out just wasn't even close. So yeah, you can check out that article and you can see the stuff that we did there. It was a ton of fun, actually. Really, it was eye opening. And it was as an SEO professional, people were like, AI is changing everything. It's like, no, it's not. No, it's not. It's not. It's just, it can help you do stuff faster. That's all it can do.
So would you say then that asking AI to give you a certain word count is a bad idea?
Yeah, totally. They lie.
Yeah.
Like one of the first things that I think I ever saw was somebody putting in, like, asking it for like keyword volume, and it'll gladly give you numbers.
This guy wants to know what the weight of smoke is. I don't know if you have an answer to that.
That's one of my favorite stories.
Oh, is it a good story?
Um,
Should we hear it?
the Isaac Newton was challenged to measure the weight of smoke. And so what he did was he took out a scale and he measured the cigar, and then he lit the cigar and let it go all down to ash. And so the cigar was 7 ounces, the ash was 3 ounces, the weight of smoke is 4 ounces. And the concept is everything is measurable if you think about it the right way. And
Hmm.
it's a concept that I first heard. I have a bachelor's in psychology, and it was kind of like, how do you measure happiness? You know, like but there are ways to do it if you can think about it the right way. You can measure something if everything's measurable. And as an SEO and as somebody that likes to do testing in SEO, that's actually helped my thought process a lot, because we can't often go directly at what we want to look at, but there's often an indirect way to measure the thing that we're most interested in.
Oh, that's great. That's a great story. Richard just wants to know if he's got the right article before he posted in the chat. Is it that we analyzed 9 major LLMs?
Yeah, that one. Tons of fun.
All right.
If you want some tinfoil hat on that too, the 2 worst performers were Google's.
Oh, that is interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know. Google is starting to do a little better lately, I think. I think they started off slow, but I'm starting to have issues with ChatGPT and their quality. It seems to be not getting better. I don't know. That's my personal experience, but we'll see what happens. Robert just wants to know, for self-storage, they have a multi-location business. So is your advice for multi-location businesses any different? Because this is always a challenge we run into with local SEO, so self-storage. Let's say you have 15 facilities, and then for each 15 facilities, you have a list of like 5 different services. Do you want 15 times 5 pages, like, for each of the services? Do you just put it all on the location page? Do you have a certain approach that you use for this?
And for me, locations really seem very, very important. And so I might have a location plus service, and then I might have a service that's just generic, which might get me into that near me search kind of stuff. So I might kind of take that approach where I've got a location plus the services pages, and then I've got pages that might just be the services themselves.
Yeah, I haven't found that there's like a simple answer for every single site
No.
for that.
Oh, here's the best way to do it, though. Actually, I take it all back. Do the search for the you want, right? And you're going to see some massive sites that you're not really competing, because there's like the national ones and then the local guys. You're not competing with those guys, and you probably will never push them out of the top spots, but you can be the number one local person. But Google is going to show you the structure that it likes for your area, because those national ones will change a little bit from this city to that city. So look at the structure that Google likes the most, and then that's what I would emulate.
Okay. And you're looking at the national sites or the non-national sites?
The national sites is probably what I look at first, because they've spent millions upon millions of dollars to figure out the best structure, and Google seems to like them.
Something I forgot to ask you when we were talking about that plumber. So you want to put in the words that are related to plumbing and water heaters and whatever. What are your thoughts, or have you done any testing around location related keywords? So for example, if you're a plumber and you're trying to target Dallas, Texas, do you need to like mention like neighborhood names in Dallas, or zip codes in Dallas, or I don't know, like landmarks in Dallas? I've seen people do this. Have you done any testing around that to make sure Google knows you're talking about Dallas?
The one thing that I feel most comfortable about is that there's a lot of leeway in terms of duplicate content on these pages when you have a geo on them. And so if you're doing Houston and Dallas and our good friend Plano, you can probably have pages that are very, very similar, and you're really just changing out the location. I think it's not a terrible idea to have some information about the location, and I don't think it's a terrible idea. It's like if you're building out your supporting pages to talk about things that are nearby, that's a way to come up with content in the local space. So maybe it wouldn't be like my biggest focus of all time for the pages, but it's something that I would consider and probably do.
Here's a good one. Someone on LinkedIn says they thought word count doesn't affect rankings.
Yeah, it certainly does. Like, let's do it. So like, if you look at the SERPs and everybody in there has 3,000 words and you have 500, you think you're going to get there? I don't think you're going to get close.
I've seen it where like people take this to extremes though, because I've seen lots of pages rank without content. I've seen pages rank with like just one paragraph or like 5 sentences. And so it can be hard to know how much you need, because I'm assuming I've seen anyways, there's a point where there's overkill, like you're not adding anything.
Yeah, it's not an arms race. It's not just to get 10,000 words. You need to be within that zone that Google's rewarding. But then also your contextual terms are going to have to raise in proportion. And what's going to happen is you're going to get outside of centerpiece annotation. That's the idea where Google looks at a page, it understands what it's about, and now it's looking at it, do each of these sections match that main concept? And at 10,000, 15,000, 20,000 words, it's going to go off in a hurry. Now, one thing to look at, so this happens all the time. Somebody will ping support. By the way, I'm not the front line of support for the tool, but a lot of it does get to me. They'll say like, oh, this pop has made a mistake. It says that I have 3,000 words on my page, and I put my page into Google Docs and I only have 500. Pop is clearly terrible. And what they don't realize is that there's a lot of stuff inside of the code that Google is reading and considering and counting as word count, and it's just not going to show up in a Google Doc because a Google Doc is not a web page. And so it is very important to look at a page in the same way that Google is looking at it. And there are a lot of words within the HTML that Google will consider and count. And that's why you can often see some of those like 500 word count sort of pages that seem to be ranking. It's because their word count is probably significantly higher.
So another thing that's kind of big in SEO right now is this SEO jargon. I'm going to say, if you are not in the SEO industry, you might be like, what the hell is she talking about? Vector embedding. Let's talk about that. Can you break down for small businesses that are listening, what is vector embedding? They may hear this term, that it's like the new thing that they need to know about, and how it impacts their SEO strategy.
My unpopular opinion is I don't believe in vectoring. Vectoring is it's just the distance between things. I think is the simplest way to look at it. Is it's the distance between things. This is just called writing to me. If you write a sentence and you have subheadings that are relevant to the thing that you're talking about, and you have within that subheading, if you have content that's relevant within the thing, then you're good. There's the vector embedding idea too is also getting popular because of LLMs, and it's the concept that how LLMs look at a page is they take, say, a word or a phrase, and then they binary it or put it into some sort of code, and then they're looking to see matches between those types of things. That could be, I'm not sure, but I can tell you from because as we talked about earlier, you can't write a page and it's going to show up in ChatGPT right now. That's just not how it's doing it. So I don't think that's terribly important. Maybe there's a concept of vectoring on getting onto those external sites and them kind of coordinating those concepts, like you're talking about with the press release, right? So maybe an LLM can see that there are 5 different places that it's pulling from, and it can confirm that data, and that is a form of vectoring. So, but again, you didn't have to think about vectoring in order to create the press release to do that. It just happened because you wrote a good press release and you distributed it the right way. That's, to me, the same concept. I think worry about vectoring at all is not anything that anybody needs to worry about if they've got the foundational approach correct on how to structure a page for Google or for LLMs.
All right. I know you're known for your love of testing. So you have like a whole website devoted to this. And a place people can join and see the results of your test. Can you share one of the recent tests you've done in SEO that actually surprised you, like did not give the result you were expecting?
Well, yeah, we did a test review not that long ago, I think 2 months ago, and one thing, when everybody's just knee jerking and jumping ship and SEO is changing, I was like, well, maybe Schema is finally a thing. Like Schema's always been the next big thing. It's always been about to be a ranking factor, and it's never really been a ranking factor. It's been an organization factor. It's probably been an indexing factor. Yeah, you can show up. You can take up more SERP real estate. So you should definitely do that. And I thought, well, maybe now's the time that it's going to do anything, and it did absolutely nothing. Like adding Schema to a page did not improve its rank. The other thing, and this came from another tester within the group. It's called IMG Courses, by the way. But he wanted just to look at, all right, people are like, oh, you need links are dead. SEO is dead, links are dead. And so then he ran all these pages and bought the spammiest links he could find and used those, and all the rankings improved on these test pages. So Really, nothing has changed in on-page in terms of ranking, and links are still extremely important and will get you where you need to go. And now with LLMs, links are even more important, and on-page will really help you get into those AI overviews. So not much has changed. It's just now we have a few extra KPIs, and if we have a few extra KPIs, then maybe we all can make a little more money.
Here's a good one. Speaking of link building, what are your findings on link exchanges? So just to clarify for people in case they're not sure what that means. So you have two different businesses and they're both linking to each other.
I mean, there's nothing horribly wrong about doing that, but I think it does violate Google's terms of services. But there can be valid reasons to do that. You know, you're cross promoting a charity event that you're doing. I don't think Google's going to have any heartburn about doing that. So I don't think I would do that as my main focus. But if I had one or two of them, I don't think I'd be terrible.
Yeah, I fully agree. I think I've only seen people get nailed by it if they do it at scale. So, if you're an SEO and you're installing directories on all your client sites where like all of your clients are linking together, that's not great if you do that at scale.
Yeah, you just end up with like some giant. That's not what you want.
Yeah. Steve has a question here. Is there any way to increase crawl budget to get Google to find more of your new pages?
Honestly, I think that's just something that develops over time if you are consistently posting. I just realized I didn't plug in my computer.
We're almost done here, but yeah, that would be an abrupt ending. Okay.
And we're good. I was looking, I'm like, it's plugged into the wall. You have to put it into the computer. Yeah, I think you can increase it slowly over time.
So this is more of a local SEO specific question. I'm curious to see if you guys have done any testing around this. Embedding your Google business profile on the page or linking to driving directions. Have you tested this at all?
It's something that I've tested in an environment where I can say, yeah, I think this works. It's something that I've done before, especially the driving directions pages. I've done that. I couldn't tell you. Like, it seems like the right thing to do, but I can't tell you that it is the right thing to do. And I haven't run it through any kind of test where I can talk to the results.
Yeah, we actually just recently tested this one, and my suggestion would be you don't need to, as long as the address is on your site in your footer. That has a measurable impact. If you're a small business and you don't have your address in your footer, the reason why I say the footer, it gets on every single page of your site. So every single page of your site now has like kind of a location attached to it. If you've already got that, and then you're adding this, it doesn't really do anything. Where I think people might see lifts from it is if they don't have the address there, and then this gives Google an address. That makes sense. I think that's maybe why there's varying opinions on this particular tactic. But the address is way faster.
I like that.
All right, what's this question here? Having a separate secondary site to focus on a particular high-value service, is it better to have a site, I guess, with a keyword-rich domain, or just have one site and try to optimize?
If you have the time and budget and resources to manage two separate domains, two domains can rank for the same keyword, even if they are the same company. Wayfair famously does this by running 5 websites that are all owned by the same company. They're all going after the exact same keywords, and they take up 5 spots on page 1 and page 2 for those terms. So yeah, you can totally do it. It's a great way to try to take real estate from your competitors. It's just, time, resources.
Yeah,
and budget.
Totally. We have clients that do this and do it successfully. But I wouldn't suggest it to a personal injury lawyer in Dallas. The odds of getting both their sites to page 1, it's going to be rough to try and do that. I mean, maybe if their budget was big enough. Maybe if they hired Jason Hennessy and spent $35,000 a month, they'd be okay.
Yes, I'm sure that would be true.
This is I guess a schema question. Is there a way to aggregate review schema for a location that auto updates? So I think what they're asking here, as you get more Google reviews, let's say you're at 100, then you're at 150, 200, having the number in your schema automatically update.
Maybe there's I don't know. Maybe there's a plugin that does that, but I haven't heard of one.
We don't use any plugins. I really wouldn't worry about this too much. Like Kyle just said, it's not a ranking factor. And I don't think having a discrepancy really matters either. If we're doing anything with review schema, we currently just update it every 6 months because I haven't found a way to do it automatically. There may be a plugin. So if anybody knows of a plugin, leave a comment and we can check that out. What do you think? Oh, this is good. What do you think of the ethics of building rank and rent websites? Is it a waste of time in 2025? And he's, clarifying, yes, creating a Google business profile for rank and rent is against Google's terms of service. And they are a lot better at catching these than they were like 5 years ago. What are your thoughts on this, Kyle?
Well, if you're trying to game it that you're a real business, that probably runs afoul of that. But you're allowed to build a website to gather leads. I don't think there's anything unethical about that. I think where ethics plays into it is if you're lying about who you are and what you're attempting to do. But waste of time is that's a question on how quickly you can build these things. I think I know people that do it. I think the bigger issue is selling the leads. Are you in a niche that's sophisticated enough to understand that these are valuable leads? I think is probably going to be your bigger, not ethical consideration, but your bigger consideration on something if it's something you want to
I've
do.
talked to a few business owners in this space, in the local SEO space, who do rank and rent, and it's definitely way harder than it used to be. I think the challenge is you need a Google business profile usually to get leads, and then how do you get reviews without faking them? Like, it's hard. Definitely a challenging space. I know we are at time, Kyle, so I want to be mindful of that. Can you tell people where they can find out more, or how they can get in contact with you after if they want to do that?
I think the big thing, a lot of people realize they want to use a tool like Pop and can't for time and resources issues. And we've put together a done for you service where we can push the buttons for you, and we can push them pretty well and essentially come up with content strategy, for your next 2 to 3 month sprint, the content that you need for it and that kind of stuff. But you guys very kindly put the QR code on there. But if it's on our website, it's the Pop's White Glove service. And check it out. We can do it for you, and it's not too expensive.
Thank you so much for your time. I know it's super late where you are, so we'll let you get going and get ready for bed. But thanks so much for joining us.
All right. Yeah, it is time.
All right, so everybody else, see you at our next one. Make sure you subscribe to our channel to get alerted for our next webinar.
Awesome. Thank you so much.